The NFL draft is now officially in the books. And just real quick, want to talk about some notable winners from the draft and some questionable decisions from certain teams throughout the draft. Y'all know I'm going to talk about it and break it all down right after this.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and I'm holding it down on this episode. So if you're tuned in with me, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Now, there's a lot of teams that made some really good moves throughout this draft process, and there are some teams that made some very, very questionable decisions. But I want to start off with just a few notable winners of the NFL draft in 2025. I'm going to kick things off with saying that, hey, the Arizona Cardinals had an outstanding draft for 2025. We know that a lot of work had to be done on the defensive side of the ball for the Arizona Cardinals just so they can be right there in the mix and compete within that NFC West. So hopefully they can elevate themselves to a standpoint to where now you're looking at Kyler Murray, you're looking at some of those offensive weapons, and then you can go ahead and retool, repatch up some of those holes on the defense, and that they did throughout this draft. Some of the notable picks that the Arizona Cardinals had throughout the team is interior D lineman Walter Nolan. They picked up Will Johnson, a first round projected guy who they was able to pick up in the second round. Then they went and got edge Jordan Burch out of Oregon, got linebacker Cody Seaman out of Ohio State with cornerback Denzel Burke out of Ohio State, picked up a guard and Hayden Cooper out of Texas, and then got a safety out of Nevada and Kitten Crawford. Very, very solid decisions and moves for the Arizona Cardinals with just about every single pick that they went out there and they selected. They found value in those guys. I really love the top of their draft by going out and getting a Walter Nolan who's going to come in and be an absolute force for them as long as he's coached up right. Gonna get a ball hawk and Will Johnson coming out of Michigan. And then you bolster up that pass rush. We're going to get an edge like Jordan Burke. Hey, my man's had a career high 10 sacks in his collegiate career last year for the Oregon Ducks. So a really good thing that the Arizona Cardinals did in this year's draft. Another notable winner that I'm going to go out there and say is that the Atlanta Falcons did an outstanding job finding value in this draft. First, they go out and pick up a versatile player in Jalen Walker out of Georgia, a guy that you can line up at linebacker and can line up as an edge and be able to give you something after the Atlanta Falcons were pretty much ranked 29th in total QB pressures and ranked 31st in pass rush win rate this past season. And not only did you go out and get Jalen Walker, you trade back into the first round and select James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, one of the guys that was in college this past season that had one of the higher pass rush win rates. So now you add on two really, really outstanding players for your defense that can get after the quarterback, and then you follow that up by getting two solid safeties. First, in Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, who I really, really love his physicality, his ball skills by being a good, solid safety back there. And then you get in the fourth round safety Dylan Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma, a versatile guy that not only you can drop back and say, hey, we need you to play too high, but you can also utilize his skill set when it comes to if you need another man down in the box. Really, really good draft by the Atlanta Falcons with addressing their needs on the defensive side of the ball. Really good job by them. Another notable winner, I got to just go out and say, hey, the rich get richer. And a lot of the times when you got good front offices and good teams that know exactly what they're doing, you look at the Baltimore Ravens. They found value in every single pick of this draft. Literally, value in every single pick of this draft. You start off in round one picking up a guy like Malachi Starks out of Georgia, who is definitely up there with those notable names listed as one of the better safeties coming out of this draft. A lot of people, I believe, had him second after Nick Amaware. So you go ahead and you take that, and he was definitely one of those ones that can go out there and help the Baltimore Ravens play the physical football that they absolutely want to play, especially being in the AFC North, where it's going to be very, very tough every single time you go up against one of your division rivals. So you get safety Malachi Starks out of Georgia, then you go and you grab Mike Green out of Marshall, who I believe is definitely at the top of the list of pass rushers, if not at the top of the list of pass rushers that was available in this draft. You look at Mike Green, he has the speed, he has the power, the size, the pass rush moves. He did have some concerns with the off the field stuff. Hopefully he's able to, figure all that stuff out. But this is a guy that had 17 sacks in 2024 and posted a 20% pass rush win rate. And hey, the tape speaks for itself. Then you go out there and you add a guy and tackle Emory Jones out of LSU, who's going to be really good for them. You go and get a very sound linebacker in Teddy Buchanan out of California. And then you just go ahead and you piece up and you add other type of players. And it was crazy to see that they took a kicker in Tyler Loop out of Arizona. Hey, what's going on with Justin Tucker? Man, but those are, and I want to show one more. I got to show the Carolina Panthers some love for their draft that they had, as well as another notable winner of this draft. First, you go out there, you get wide receiver Ted McMillan out of Arizona. Then you are able to pick up Nick Scoridon out of Texas A&M. Then you catch a guy that I believe could have been a second-round pick in Princely. Y'all know from Ole Miss. I ain't trying to screw up his last name, but you grab him. Then you address your running back room by going to get Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. And then you grab safety, a really, really sound safety in the later rounds, and Lathan Ransom out of Ohio State. So really, really good sound picks. And just to throw one more in there for the Carolina Panthers, wide receiver Jimmy Horn Jr. out of Colorado. Very, very good picks for the Carolina Panthers. Now, excuse me, I don't know where that one came from, but now we got to talk about some of the what the hell are y'all doing picks. What are y'all doing? Look, man, when we talk about the Cleveland Browns, I believe the Cleveland Browns was off to an exceptional start to their draft, and then they just start being the Cleveland Browns, doing absolutely questionable things for the Cleveland Browns. First, you go out there, you trade out of your position, and you go and get Mason Graham. Rightfully so, not mad at it. Then you go get who is viewed as the best linebacker in Carson Schwarzenegger out of UCLA. Still a really solid pick. Then you get Quinshon Judkins. Then you add a tight end from Bowling Green. And then this is where things got weird. You draft Dillon Gabriel. Why? But nobody, it was like, okay, I guess, right? But it was still a why. And then you pick up Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, but then you draft another quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. Why? Why do you need two quarterbacks in this draft? And then you take the much worse quarterback ahead of the better quarterback and then try to justify the move, in a sense, by getting the better quarterback that you could have drafted earlier on anyway. Makes no sense for me. Because if you're looking at the Cleveland Browns, now they simply have 5 quarterbacks in their quarterback room. You have Deshaun Watson, you have Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders, all in that quarterback room. And it's kind of weird and definitely a questionable decision for the Cleveland Browns, and got us sitting here like, what are y'all doing, Cleveland? Why would y'all make some type of move like that when you absolutely could have just ran with the better quarterback anyway and went on about your business? So why would you even do that in the first place? Now, I know there's some people that's trying to make sense of it and say, well, now they got this loaded quarterback room. There's going to be teams around the league that wants to do business with them, and they can potentially get, some additional draft capital moving into 2026 draft. But I'm like, don't your fan base deserve to win games now? So why are we playing this? Now, understand, you could just say, hey, let all the guys battle. But when you have 5 quarterbacks, my only question is, how do you allow each quarterback to have an adequate amount of reps to where you are able to decipher who is better than the other. I understand Deshaun Watson is still recovering from the Achilles injury, so you say, I bet, cool. You ain't really got to worry about him going into camp. But then you pick up Joe Flacco, and then you had Kenny Pickett still on the thing. So now how do you make decisions between Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel? What is that about? I'm just saying, very, very questionable move by the Cleveland Browns. Now, the other questionable move is that the Pittsburgh Steelers, they ain't want Shedeur Sanders, but they wanted Will Howard. What? Look, I don't know what Will Howard is going to be in the NFL, but I know in his college career, he wasn't that damn good, in my opinion. That's just me. I don't know what he's going to be able to translate to in the NFL, but are you really going to be this naive and this ridiculous for Aaron Rodgers? It's my only thing I got to ask for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are you really going to sit here and be this ridiculous in hopes that Aaron Rodgers signs with you? Now, I could be absolutely wrong. They could absolutely know that Aaron Rodgers is about to come in the building, sign on the dotted line, and be the quarterback to go. I still believe that could have still been the possibility anyway. But when it's time to hand over the keys to the next quarterback, why wouldn't you want the better quarterback in this draft to sit behind that guy in Aaron Rodgers? And you already know the guy that was sitting is already a hell of a quarterback coming into this league. You just had to refine a couple things. And you say that guy's Will Howard? What? I think they still had an okay draft, but they still doing what the Steelers do. Outside of 2 offensive players, y'all signed a bunch of defensive guys again. It's not 1990. Pittsburgh, the fans, the steel curtain, the terrible towel, I hope that's all y'all are ready for in Pittsburgh, because y'all going to be hanging your hats saying we had another winning season and getting spanked in the playoffs again, simply because if Aaron Rodgers don't pan out, you really screwed. And if he does come, you still screwed, at least in my opinion. So very, very questionable decisions on the Pittsburgh Steelers side. Like, I like the selections that you pick up a Derek Harmon. You pick up a running back in Caleb Johnson. I don't really know too much about Ty Robinson out of Nebraska, but you get a guy that slipped really, really far in the draft in Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, but then you pick up another interior defensive line in Yaya Black out of Iowa. Why? Then you go get a linebacker and a cornerback. Why? Like, I get it that you got DK and George Pickens, but what else after that? I don't know. A lot of questionable stuff going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And look, I'm not trying to be negative Nancy or party pooper, but for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make questionable decisions throughout this entire offseason and let it affect, in my personal opinion, let it affect their decisions in this draft. Whatever happens this season, we get to look back to this offseason right now. We get to look back as you waiting on Aaron Rodgers, you letting Russell Wilson walk out the door, you letting Justin Fields walk out the door, you selecting Will Howard, and a bunch of defensive guys acting as if it's 1990. It's not. You need an offense to thrive in this league. The defense is still very well important, but you are not winning championships with mid quarterback play and great defense. I'm sorry, it's not happening. But hey, so those are the questionable decisions that happened out for the day. I gave you my notable winners. Let me know what decisions out there that you felt was a bit questionable for certain teams. Let me know who are some notable winners that you liked out there. There are some moves that I like that other teams make, but we can't name them all. Otherwise, we'll be talking here for hours. So I gave you some of the 3 notable names that was out there for me, because I feel like their draft selections absolutely made sense. You're like, okay, yes, this is what they needed to do. Yes, this is absolutely a high value pick. This is what. So let me know about some of your notable winners and some questionable decisions that went down throughout the NFL draft. But that is it for me, man. Me and Steve are going to be back, and we're going to continue to break this down a little bit further. So in the meantime, in between time, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. We appreciate y'all over here. Make sure y'all always love football, man. We off to a good, interesting start. Let's keep this thing rolling. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.